Man, I have to come up with hotkeys for these things so you don't see the infinite tunnel of desktop. Howdy. It is time for, apparently, all the noises. It is time for my happy, fun DM prep session. Since last week was all recap and pretty much zero prep, this week is going to be mostly prep and very little recap. But, you know, gotta have your dinner before you can have your dessert. You gotta run before you can crawl, whatever the quote of preference is. So, last week, our heroes valiantly, messed around in town. I'd set up an encounter where they were to impersonate Volo, go and conduct a symposium at Kaya's House of Repose. Certain NPCs that would be of interest to them would be there, causing some dramatic tension because, oh my goodness, they have now presented themselves as other than who they are before they've met these NPCs for the first time. So when they do meet them, they will have to explain themselves. Additionally, I use the cool suspicion mechanic from more encounters at the port, or encounters in Port Nyanzaro, off of the DM's Guild. Highly recommend this. The group, however, rolled super incredibly well because they know my penchant for social encounters. They, of course, power gamed and built their characters around lots of good social encounters. They rolled super well, didn't end up failing rolls very often, so they didn't raise a lot of suspicion. Although they still are going to have to explain themselves when, for example, they present themselves to the head of the Order of the Gauntlet and have to explain why the Paladin isn't actually Volo. He's some other guy, even though he was introduced as Volo at this fancy reception. We remembered later that the Paladin, Tyrius, had exhaustion, which meant he should have been rolling at disadvantage on all of his rolls, which would have made it more interesting, although I don't know if the outcome would have been much different. And so this is something that I normally leave up to the players to keep track of and remember. And I snipped at another player during the session for not remembering whether or not they had DM inspiration. Turns out I never told them they had DM inspiration, so when it came time to snip at Tyrius for not remembering he had exhaustion, I didn't feel like being that big of a jerk. Plus, I had been having a week outside of the game, and I didn't want to bring any of that into the game, and I wasn't sure if I was or not, so I just sort of let it slide. And I have found in life, if you aren't sure whether or not the situation warrants being a jerk, maybe you should just let it slide. Another thing that I've learned DMing that I have trouble with, but I do try and do, and that is when the outcome doesn't go the way I hoped it would, story-wise, combat-wise, or whatever, let it go. Move on. I was hoping there would be some kind of drama that came out of this encounter, that they would tip their hand, that they would screw up, that there would be wacky hijinks because they got discovered for impersonating this famous person. But no, they got away with it. They got the money. that Volo was going to get paid. They got off scot-free. So, okay. You know, I'm not going to penalize them for playing well and rolling well. Much as I'm a little bit disappointed that, you know, we didn't get to see what would happen if maybe they did mess up. They then went on, they bought a Zeloraptor, which is from the very cool Beasts of the Jungle Rot, also on the DM's Guild. I am not paid to endorse these things. One of the prep things we're going to get to do tonight is, you know, type in a character sheet for the Zeloraptor. Hey, there he is. And make a token or two. I haven't put in all of the monsters out of this thing yet. I tend to just add them as I go. I don't have the patience to make a gajillion all at once. It takes like a minute or two to do these things. So, you know, whatever. But it seems more onerous to do, you know, all of them at once than it would to do one at a time just when I need them. And I just hope that I don't need them, like, on the fly. Like, I didn't need this guy this time. But he is going to be the Cavalier Paladin's mount and best friend forever. So there was that, and I think one other thing came out of this session that I thought was interesting. Well, they ran the race. Everybody wants to do the dinosaur races in Tomb of Annihilation. I almost said Terms of Endearment. That would be a totally different campaign. Tomb of Annihilation. Everybody wants to do the dinosaur races. They're fun. It was towards the end of the evening. Everybody was a little tired. We sort of rushed into it. The group, no one won the race because everyone chose to whip their mount until they frenzied and ran off, not, you know, getting disqualified. So everybody got disqualified. Nobody won. Too bad. So sad. And that's sort of where we left off. But the other interesting thing that came out of this was our dwarf player, the player playing Delmore, spoke with Hugh Hackenstone, one of the NPC guides. Hugh Hackenstone, also a dwarf, one arm, and I decided to play Hugh as a little bit crazy, a little bit abrasive. Hugh lost his arm to a dragon. All his people got kicked out of their home, those who weren't, you know, eaten by a dragon. And so Hugh is, you know, a little touched, a little crazy, a little abrasive, thinks of himself as the best guide out there. And in the NPC notes for Hugh, he's not going to take anybody anywhere except back to, you know, this place to kill this dragon. And I'd be fine with that if the players chose him. That would be cool. But this is the second or third session of players going to NPCs and literally just going down their checklist of, NPC, do you have certain quest knowledge that I need? No. Okay, I will go talk to other NPCs now. And it's very computer gamey to me. Very, I don't know how to put it other than that. Very, you know, I've got this quest log. I've got these things that I'm trying to check off. I want to see if this person has certain dialogue options for me. They don't. Okay, time to move on. And it's not how I like to do an RPG, tabletop, or in this case, you know, web browser. You should, you know, talk to them. And he did somewhat, but it literally was, hi, Hugh, if that's your name. How's it going? What's going on? Have you heard of these, like, 5 things? Didn't ask anything about where you're from. How'd you lose your arm? You know, what's going on? I mean, it just, I don't know. It was weird. So, and it's not the first player to do that this campaign. And it seems to me like in the previous campaign, these same players weren't doing this. And I'm curious what it is. Is it that it's a published campaign? Is it that they're still getting a feel for their own characters? I'm not sure. And I probably won't be able to figure it out by myself. It would probably make sense to ask them, you know, if they noticed they're doing this, or if they feel like they're doing this, or if I'm totally off base. But, you know, having been raised in an era where we don't talk about feelings, I find this very uncomfortable. But, you know, I'll probably do it anyway. Ask them, that is. And find it uncomfortable. Both. Same time. That'll be fun. Okay, so let's talk about what's coming up this week as opposed to what happened last week. First, we are going to create... Oh, Cursed Temple, Water Elemental. You are done. Get you in the folder. I set up this whole... Oh, I'll show you. Here you are. I set up a whole encounter in the baths for them out of, again, this one, Encounters in Port Nyanzaru. Slightly different map. I used a pre-gen map I had already bought off the marketplace to save time. So one of my themes for this campaign is let's save me some time. So I don't have to spend, twice as many hours prepping the game as I do running it. Let's try and cut that back to, half as many. That would be great. So I'm trying to use a lot more pre-gen maps, and this comes from Gabriel Picard, Halls of Marble, Celestial City. There it is. And it's this one. Halls of Marble Baths. And it works great because there are, in the encounter, there are 4 pools in the defined encounter, each one with different properties. In this, there are 1, 2, 3, but then there are these outliers, which I would use the same property for, 1, 2, 3, 4. So whichever one they went to, they probably wouldn't end up going to all of them. Ta-da! And one big cursed water elemental, and he can summon steam methods. Yay, that's all that was. And I literally spent 15 minutes on this. But now, let's go over here. And we are going to add a character. Zeloraptor. Character sheet. Yay. Scroll down to the bottom. He is an NPC. Boom. Yeah. Very NPC. I go to the cogwheel. I do his character name. There's a way to set defaults for these, and I've set the defaults the way I want, and yet when I make a new character, it doesn't have these defaults. So I have to do this every time, and I think it's just that. Anything else? Whispers off, public, all the blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, everything else is fine. Just that one. Okay. So I'm going to do this. Boom. That. There. Half and half. Page 10. Let's do this. Make it easier to read. Edit. Zeloraptor. Medium. He is not medium. He is large. Beast. Underlined. There you go. 15. Natural armor. I don't type the whole thing out because who cares? 7d10. One thing about the shaped sheet, you only have to put the 7 part, not the plus 14 part. It'll figure that out from everything else, from the Constitution and the stuff. Speed is 50. So what I'm going to do is make two of these guys. One is a regular Zeloraptor, and one will be their tamed mount buddy. So the first will be the generic default one, and the other one, the only difference really is going to be the token. I like to give them a little special one so that they know the difference between their mount and then one they find in the wild. And when we get to token making, you'll see it doesn't take me but another half a minute to do that. So, yay. Perception. Alphabetical order. Why are you difficult? Senses. Language is none. Challenge is 2. See, I put in the challenge of 2. And it should come up here and do all the right thing. 52. 52. Okay. So then we've got these guys. Now, this is a PDF. Copying and pasting from PDFs is weird. So I always do this. Oh, this one worked fine. Awesome. Except for line breaks. Look weird. See these guys on the end? It should look like that. So what I'm going to do, because I'm a nerd, I know the control characters for line breaks with space. Boom. And then I'm going to search and replace double space with space in case there's any of those. Boom. Now I can come over here and do pounce. Click at that, click at that. And this should figure out a lot of it. Yep. Ta-da. Okay. And come back over here, do the same for pack tactics. Copy. Ooh, these guys. If it's big, I'll search and replace all of those. Those are curly quotes. Hate them. They get in the way. And this is pack tactics. If you don't put in the title first, the shape sheet tends to eat. Just it will delete the entry before you have time to paste in anything. Very annoying. Okay, that's all the cutting and pasting we're going to do. Actions, multi-attack. Sorry for, oh, look at that. I could save some disk space. Thank you. Attack by is melee. It uses his dex. Give us a +6, yep. His reach is 5. This is going to be a D10. 1 plus dex. Piercing. And claw. It's the same attack, except slashing. We can do that. Oh no, don't forget that. Yeah, got it. Thanks. And that's Zeloraptor. Character sheet, done. Okay. Now we got this. Page 10. Hey, look. GIMP because I'm too cheap to buy Photoshop. Okay, let's talk about tokens. I use the round tokens. I've heard them affectionately referred to as POGs. They look something like this. Now, all the ones you get, and this is pretty nice, when you buy the monster manual through Roll20, or when you do get one of the modules, you get pre-made tokens for most things, like except Drufi and Syndra and Sekalok. And they've got these red borders, but there are these round tokens. Mostly they have a red background with a transparent... let's zoom in on Dragonbait. Or Musharib. Hey there. Oh, this is a good example. So, you see Musharib, they cut around him and gave him this red background. A lot of people get that. Hugh. There's Hugh Hackenstone. Then other people, they didn't do the background on. They left it in place, and there's just the red outline. And then, like Prince Na, you can see Prince Na actually was cut out. He's down here on the actual portrait. I don't care. These things don't bother me. Yes, they do, but I'm going to try and not let them. Okay, so for my templates, I actually took one of those guys, cut it, sliced and diced, and made... Look at that. What the hell just happened? I'm having all kinds of issues. Let's go back to that. There. I made a red border. Yay. Isn't that fun? So I could do things like, oh look, there's a pustuloid. That is not pretty. So when I make tokens for this campaign, like a turtle, hey look, there's a generic turtle. I had to make him. And Undril, she did not have a token. So I found a nice half-orc who looked priesty, made her a token. When I do that, they're pretty uniform. I like uniformity amongst my tokens so that the players don't metagame. And I'll show you kind of what I mean, because I have some other tokens that I use. My normal NPC tokens look a little bit like this. Like, why don't you do this? Okay, here we are. Look a little bit like this. So it is just a picture with this little tiny, it's hard to see, gray border, right? But literally they all have this dark border, right? Stop that. So this is for our old campaign. Gray border. Except for the boss tokens. They knew this was somebody badass. Somebody they need to be careful of. Or an NPC they need to protect. And I had different colors, usually to match clothes, because I'm apparently concerned about that. And I did it I started with this in our Curse of Strahd campaign. Strahd had this really awesome token, and he was the only one. And then I did it for his brides, because I buffed up his brides a lot. Yeah, that was the one. There we go. Boom. But that led to some metagaming, because they knew if they saw a token for somebody who was different from the regular token, they knew, oh crap, that's the one we got to take out. And, if you're playing in a tabletop game and you bring out the big fancy mini, they know that's the one we got to take out. So it's not that big a deal. But I liked in this game to have everything uniform, only because all the other tokens look like this, and it would be a little jarring to have 1, 2 that look different. Now player tokens, I give the players tokens that look like this, or like this, And I let the players go and find art for their characters, or in the case here, make art for their characters. And then I'll put them in these tokens, in these token rings. And I bought those as well. I am not artistic. But it, it makes them feel different, and it's very obvious that this is a character. So I'll do something similar with the mount version. This is the paladin, so likely the mount will be in a very similar frame. But for the regular one, he'll go in the red frame. So let's go back to the red frame. And first thing I want to do is make a new thing. I don't care how big it is, because I'm going to import. I'm going to open. Modules, and I know it's page 10, so I'll just import that before you have time to generate new previews. So there. And then I really am not gonna get a whole lot of this guy. Like, I'm not gonna get his junk. I'm gonna get like that. Come over here, new, transparency, paste. And that's too big. That's perfectly fine, because now I can scale it. 257, 268, let's go 235. Better. Good enough. Anchor. And then, so biggest time saver, make one layer. That's your ring. Always leave that layer. Don't ever mess with it. Add new layers underneath it for your art for your token. Save a selection. Right? So what I do, if I was going to do this from scratch, you select the thing you want to cut. You can modify the selection like this. Boop, boop, boop. Right? And then you can, over here in the little squiggly, scribbly line tab, you can selection to path, and it'll just save that selection for you, right? And you technically want to invert that so you can cut everything except that, which is what cut me is. So once you, now I have, there, I have no selection. Once you have saved one here, you can click it and you can do path to selection, boom. And now I'm just gonna make sure I have my layer selected, cut, there we go. Zeloraptor, TOA, images to upload, Zeloraptor. Boom. Okay. And now I've got over here my purchased frames. Oh, so many frames. If I didn't have a player using that one already, I would use it. I'm just going to grab this one. Open with GAMP. Paste. Something is wrong. Where did it go? I will do his junk for this one. Not quite. Good enough. Okay, circle. I'm certain my narrating exactly what I'm doing is super, super exciting. There. Let's do this just so that it's super different. Really? Is that a thing? Boop. Now he's going the other way. And okay. Well, that was fun. And images, let's upload some stuff. I've actually uploaded all of those except for these. So there they go. Bring them all down. It's large, so it's 2 by 2. Okay. So over here, we've got this guy is the NPC version. I have it right here. But what I'm going to do is hit duplicate. Boop. Okay. I'm going to edit him. They haven't named the mount yet. They were calling it Talon. I thought about naming it some other things. For now, it's just going to be Talon. Okay, so this one, and see I've got these macros here. Macros are awesome. So choose that one. That is the NPC version. Boop. Name. It is a mook because mook means there can be more than one. PC, those are for unique ones, and it just, I'll show you in a second. Set mook bars. Boop. So when this happens, usually that means, yeah, okay, cancel. That means something is messed up in my macro. Only because I'm live. So I have GM macros. This is a character that I, move around. And over here, look at these. So what happened? Selected. Oh, yeah, it can't be selected because it's target. Ha. But what I actually want. Okay, so this is wrong. But the good news is it's working on my other one. So, excellent. Does PC work? PC works. The only difference is that it's set to none on the mook. That way, if I change its hit points, it doesn't change them on the character sheet. That's it. And then set token macros with the selected one. And now this guy should, if I edit him, look, it even updated it with the default token. Ta-da. So if I delete this, no. Boop, there he is. And it's correct. Some people like to put the speed on there. They put things in different bubbles or whatever. It's all personal preference. Select it there. Yep. And another thing you can do to make it look a little nicer is this. Wham. I will actually do that with this one too. Ta-da. Okay, so we have those. Something else you might have seen as I scroll back. Oh my goodness, look at all that. All those errors. Never mind. So the other thing that I need to do, and I'm probably not going to do it right now. Actually, let's talk a little bit about one of the things that I like about Roll20, as opposed to Fantasy Grounds. And this isn't a diss on Fantasy Grounds thing. Fantasy Grounds has a lot going for it. I do like a lot of the DM tools that it has, much better than some of the stuff than the way you have to do things in Roll20. And I've said before, Roll20 seems to be easier for new players, for players, and for building maps from assets. The Fantasy Grounds method of building maps is get Photoshop. That's not super handy. But one other thing that you get, even with free accounts on Roll20, are forums. Now, sure, you could do something like Obsidian Portal, but that's just another account, another place people have to go to figure out about your game, and the more different places people have to go, the less likely they are. So I literally at the end of last game said, hey, if you want to go shopping, rather than taking up time during the game next week, just post. Tell me what you wanted to buy. So I need to go in and reply to this. You were able to find this, you weren't able to find that. And I don't make people roll for stuff that's just in the marketplace. I'll just tell them how much they spent. Or you were able to find this for this amount. Go. But another thing my players have been doing is posting art. I haven't asked them if it's cool for me to share, so I'm not going to just yet. But they're so excited about the game. This makes me so happy that they, go home and doodle their adventures, and not just doodle. I mean, it's good art. I'm happy every time I see it. So that's very exciting. But one of the things that I need to do, and you guys are not done because you have not been copied to the new game yet. One of the things that I need to do is write up a way, how travel works for them, how, let's go look at the map again. First off, I just love the map. And I don't know if you watched our stream a couple of streams ago. When they first saw the maps, they just went nuts. These are some really great maps. They're beautiful. They're also really well done. And the attention to detail with importing them into Roll20, where I can grab the measuring tool and see how far it is. And the scale is correct. Oh. I was tempted, though, to change it from miles to days. But you can't. I also have a couple Canadians, and as a joke, I was going to change it to kilometers, but that's okay. Nobody understands them anyway. Okay, but no, navigation. So the way it works is there's a list of 6 or 7, and I talked about this with Abe in the stream last week, in the DM stream last week. There's 6 or 7 checks you make every day of travel. And every hex is a day of travel, unless you're on a river, and you're lucky, and it's 2 days. 2 hexes is 1 day of travel. Or if you're traveling at a fast pace, and you're lucky, then you can cover 2 hexes in a day. Let me zoom in. Hexes. So you've got to deal with, are you getting lost? Are you finding food? Is it raining? Are there up to 3 random encounters? Are you dehydrated? Are you exhausted? Are you guys traveling stealthily, quickly? What? So I like to, when there's a big set of rules like this. And a lot of this is hidden. I don't have to show them their navigation roles. I don't have to show them the random encounter roles. And a lot of that I will hide from them and just describe what they see. But a lot of it is important for them to know because I will be tracking it, but they need to keep track of it too, because they don't want to get surprised when all of a sudden I say, by the way, you're out of water. They need to track, how much food and water they have. They need to know how navigation works so that when I say, well, you guys are off track, if they, one of the best buys I made, another Gabriel Picard set, you're going to hear me say that all the time, almost all that I buy is him, was the Vile Tales tabletops. Now, what it looks like they're designed for is making an entire map that is just the top of a table. And you can do things like this is the, make a puzzle. I used it actually in Curse of Strahd for the fortune telling. Oh, that was cool. Anyway, so, you get all these tops of tables and stuff, but you also get just all these miscellaneous things that you can put out. And I have found using them as map markers is brilliant. So on a map like this, it comes with these, and they're not bad. So you can say this is the party, and this is, on the GM layer, so I know where the party really is if they get lost. But what I'm going to do instead is just give them a flag. So, come on, do what I tell you. Boop. This is where you are. Green is not good on a big green map, so we've got red, we've got blue, or we give them a dagger. Yeah. This is where you are. So when they move back to what I need to write up for them, they'll pick a direction and they'll say, okay, awesome. We want to go to there tomorrow. And then we want to go from there to there and then this way, right? And we roll each day to see if they get lost. If they get lost, then they think they are there. That'll do. They think they're there, but actually they're over here. Now they've got a UA Ranger with them, and the UA Ranger can't get lost, except by magical means. However, I've talked with the Ranger about this, and we came to an agreement, and that is that in the jungles, paths can be overgrown, trees can fall down, the ways can be difficult, and sometimes you can't, if the group navigator, whoever that is, rolls poorly enough on survival, they just can't find a clear path from here to here. And the path they're on may look like it's going, but it takes them there. Now they know where they are, they're not lost. I'm not taking away his class ability, but his class ability doesn't say he can always get exactly where he's going. It just says he knows exactly where he is. And he's cool with that. So they'll roll each day to see if they're able to get where they're going, or if they wind up off course and have to backtrack. And we'll roll for random encounters, and then they'll use up food and have to forage and all that good stuff. So I think they're leaving the port this week. Again, I don't know. Maybe. So I need to be ready if they are. And that's, I think, the only thing I really need if they're going to leave the port this week. Because all the rest of it, we can wing. I've got a few. I've got a few jungle tiles I can put out, right? I think I actually got some quick encounter ones, right? Yeah. Some jungle maps that I can throw out there if they, run into random encounters in the jungle. So I'm not worried about that. I have no idea where they're going to. So I've read up on most of the the set encounters, like Fort Balorian, Camp Righteous. I hope they go to Camp Righteous. They know about Vorn. They don't know about Yelyark. I bought an additional one for out here in the Mistcliff Mountains. That is Matolo. That looks fun. If they come out this way, they might decide to go down Tiryiki. One of them knows about Firefinger. They have not really talked to anybody in port. So they don't, they've got names of places. They know Mesro. They know the name Orlunga. They know the names. But they don't know where these things are. So we will see. This is how a lot of my prep goes. I don't know what they're going to do next week, so I'm kind of ready for a bunch of stuff, and we'll see how it goes. And, you just have to be ready. Or not, and wing it. And be comfortable with that, which is cool. Have your tools prepped. And that's one thing about buying a module like this is, I've got all these different encounters already prepped, right? So here's Camp Righteous. And there's Camp Righteous. So I can read that, and then here's this background, and then here's the map info, all that stuff. And I've actually added some extra stuff that I'm not going to even spoil here to Camp Righteous. For the party, just a little extra fun. And yeah, so I'm hoping they go up the river. Go up the river. But they may end up spending the week in the port talking to people again. I know a couple of them are probably getting a little anxious to get out of the city. So if I was a betting man, I'd say probably an hour in the city still taking care of business. I'm going to try and lead them to grandfather Zitembe. To, at the very least, tell them they need to find Orlunga. And so the encounter with Zitembe is kind of cool. When the party shows up at his temple in the city, he's being accosted by Zhentarim, who immediately, upon seeing the party, go, we're out. But don't mess with us, old man. And to thank the party for running off the thugs, he offers them a free vision. So that's kind of cool. And the vision will send them to Orlunga. But this also introduces the Zentarum a little more, and there's an encounter with a Zentarum who wants to offer to get them out to Fort Belorian, where some good stuff could happen that will start a whole chain down to Mesro, which leads into Artis Cimber and his quest. Now, if they don't do that, then they'll probably meet Artis Cimber in Oralunga. So they're gonna run into him somewhere. He's too much awesome not to run into. Speaking of, I downloaded and played Tales from Candlekeep, the Tomb of Annihilation one, and it was fun. It's based on the board game. It's a pretty good. For $15, you can't really go wrong. And there are plenty of spoilers for this campaign, though, so, if you're watching this, you've been spoiled plenty already. I was hoping there would be some voice actors so I could find someone to impersonate for Artis, but everyone is mute. That's okay. I just didn't want Artis to be, standard generic British number 3. I need to find something for him that is different. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Other than that, I think that's all I really had for today. Yeah. I've run out of steam and almost out of coffee. So I think I'm going to call it. Thanks everyone for joining and listening to me babble on. I hope you have a good week. We will stream the actual adventure Thursday around 7, give or take. So hopefully you'll come and listen to us be silly then. Have a good evening. Here comes the infinity thing. Stop.